welcome to the main Basketball Rankings podcast. I am your host, Basketball Data Nerd, Lucas McNelly. Week 2 is in the books. We're starting to get a tiny bit of clarity. Still a long way to go. Still a lot of question marks. Still a lot of teams where you're looking at the record and going, really? Okay. But we're starting to get, like I said, some clarity. So I went to 2 games this weekend. We're going to hit those real quick. And then Jarod Richmond is here from WHOU to overreact wildly and make rampant and irresponsible speculative statements about a bunch of teams in the state based solely on what has happened in the first 2 weeks and some other stuff that he's heard along the way. So I went to Greeley and hosting Levitt. This was a lot of people's game of the week. Michael Hoffer had this as the game of the week. Varsity Maine had this as the game of the week. They weren't wrong. I didn't have it as the game of the week. We'll get to that. So first off, Greeley coming from 8-man to 11-man. Pretty interesting. They're the defending 8-man large school state champions, but now they're an 11-man. How do they adjust to 11-man? They've got Levitt. Levitt, of course, is the class of Class C for years now, that coming off a little bit of a down year. So a lot of question marks about both teams. Greeley, first I want to talk about the turf. I wrote about this in the newsletter, which if you haven't subscribed to the newsletter yet, you should. But yeah, so this turf, they have this new turf. You step on it, and your first step, you're like, whoa, this is a little bit different. It's a little squishy. It's a little soft. It's a little bit like when the floor is lava and you've got pillows, so you can step on the pillows and not step on the floor because the floor is lava. And if you step on the lava, you're going to burn up. Everybody knows this. So there's a little bit of a squish to it, and you notice it right away. And I think I said to someone, well, if this game sucks, we can at least take a nap or sit down and be comfy. But the game did not suck at all. Greeley looked great in the first half behind Luke Kirby. I think that's the name. Apologies if I said that wrong. He looked amazing at quarterback for Greeley. Bunch of big plays. They were up 20-6. Let's say it's 20-6 at halftime. Should have written that down. But they were up big at the half. And then whatever Hathaway said to Levitt at the half seemed to work. Maybe some poetry. Maybe they shared their feelings. I don't know. But it worked. They came out, stormed back, tied the game. They went back and forth, and then it came down to Levitt being unable to convert a fourth and 2-point conversion, and Greeley getting a big stop on 4th and either 3 or 4. They stopped him 1 yard short while Levitt was trying to come down and take the lead. So instant classic of a game. You learned a lot about both teams, and then you have more questions about each team, like is Greeley really, really good? Is Levitt all the way back? We don't know. But after the game, I talked to the athletic director of Greeley about this field, and because we were all sort of the media people, we were wondering at halftime, like, how does it handle the rain? What happens when it gets cold? It's this Scandinavian technology that no one else in New England has. It can take 40 inches of rain, and at 40 inches of rain, I think you call it. I really think you do. Like if you're getting 40, even at 38 inches of rain. No one wants to sit through that. We could reschedule. But it can take 40 inches of rain and drain just fine. If it's super, super hot out, they can hose it down, and it has kind of a cooling effect that sounded like it was the opposite of pavement, playing pickup ball on really hot pavement, black pavement, where it's just like radiating heat on you and making it worse. And apparently handles the winter quite well, because Scandinavian, and they got a lot of that, and they're playing soccer on it in the winter. So it's a very cool turf. If you get a chance to check it out, I would highly recommend it. And then on Saturday, I went to what the model had as the game of the week, which was Mount Ararat at Camden in 8-man large. Last year, Camden rallied down 24-0 to stun Mount Ararat, and then Mount Ararat got their revenge in the semifinals. But Camden was without their quarterback, Hollis Schwalm, I think I've said his name correctly every time, but it feels wrong when I say it. And apologies if I've said it wrong. But Mount Ararat was up 2 at the half. Camden came back, had a big second half from Braden Beveridge, who is a junior who just took over parts of the game. Both offense and defense, had some big tackles, had a really nice interception, which I have a little highlight clip package of him on YouTube. You could check out. He had a big game, especially that interception is worth checking out for the interception. And Camden wins 30-20. They are 2-0, and we're going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about them later with Jarod. So we're going to go to Jarod, and then we're going to try something after that. It's a segment I'm trying out. I'm calling it Movie Corner, which is, I know it's a wildly imaginative name, but I think it could be fun. It'll scratch my independent filmmaker / former film critic itch a little bit. And if you don't like it, it's at the end and you just don't have to listen to it. But you might find out about a movie that you would really like. So maybe stick around. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. You know the drill. Like it on Facebook, share it on Facebook, all of those fun things. And if you haven't yet subscribed at mainbasketballrankings.com, do that because it really helps. So having said that, let's go to my conversation with Jarod Richmond. Okay, my guest today is Jarod Richmond. He is a coach, a broadcaster, and an ace golfer. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Lucas. Great to be back with you.
So I don't golf, but I imagine it's a little bit like fantasy football. When you do something great, the people, you want to tell everybody, but nobody wants to hear about it. So what I want to do is give you the runway to tell the story, and then people can just skip ahead.
Okay,
if they don't want to hear about it.
You're a big numbers guy. You're a big stats guy.
Yeah.
I'm part of a very exclusive club now. I golf a lot during the summer because I can. That's the beauty of. You say I'm a coach. I'm not as active coaching as I used to be.
Once a coach, always a coach.
Once a coach, always a coach. Can't get out of that mindset. But no, I was very fortunate to. I think that's kind of how hole-in-ones happen. But I was very fortunate to get my first ever hole-in-one on Labor Day weekend. So it was right before had some school stuff. We had a 4-day weekend, and it was one of those hard to say. I was like dragging myself out of bed. Didn't want to get up for last weekend, but I was like, I'm going to go. Got a great group of Sunday guys that we golf with over at the Meadows in Litchfield. Shout out Meadows. Hole 8 hit a hole-in-one. It was a crazy experience. A lot of words were yelled out that I probably can't say on your podcast because I don't want to get you. No, cool experience. Great to share it with a great bunch of people. And I feel like I feel very fortunate. It's one of those things. Whenever you golf or you're a golfer, you're terrified of some things happening when you're alone, like having like a career best round or a hole-in-one when you're alone because nobody's going to believe you. I had 7 witnesses.
Yeah.
And so very fortunate to have that. Thanks for bringing it up. It reminds me of how much I'm not playing right now with school and football season in full swing. But it was a great way to cap the summer.
See, I mini golf and the hole-in-ones, they're fun, but it's a little easier. More common.
What's your best mini golf hole-in-one? Was there what was the obstacle that you had to navigate, or was it pretty like the ones I
never
hit it through the windmill or the multiple hole? Those are fun.
I think the fun ones are where you think you missed it and it bounces off the bricks and then it comes back and it rolls in slowly and you're like, oh my gosh, whoa, I didn't think that was going to do anything. I think those are the most fun for a mini golf hole-in-one.
I think anytime the golf ball goes in, I don't think it's going to go in. It goes in. It's a lot of fun, but mini golf especially.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What's your favorite mini golf course? Do you have a favorite one?
Oh,
in the state?
In the state. I'll say the one in Richmond, Moose Mountain, is pretty cool.
Okay. I haven't been to that one yet.
Put up another 18. I know Adam Robinson's. He's the mini golf guy. He's beat on all the courses. Obviously you got to say Tabor's or Roy's are popular ones. I've always been a huge Pirates Cove fan. I remember growing up, whenever you go down to go to MDI, go to Bar Harbor, you see it there.
Oh, is there a Pirates Cove in Bar Harbor too?
There's a Pirates Cove. How do you not know? You're a mid-coast guy. Do you only go as far
MDI
north?
MDI is far. MDI is 2 hours north.
Okay, so you're still mid-coast, I guess.
I know the Old Orchard Beach Pirates Cove. That's the one I'm familiar with. I played that a couple months ago, 2 months ago.
Never played that one, but there's a Pirates Cove in MDI at Bar Harbor. So,
it's probably the same people.
yeah, I haven't been to Bar Harbor in forever, for years. I mean,
Yeah,
I guess
I haven't either.
I absolve you of your bad Mainer status because I haven't been down to MDI in forever either. So
There you go. The one in Old Orchard Beach, or it might be, yeah, I think it's still in Old Orchard Beach. They have one of those holes where you're like up at the top of like a mountain and you're basically just tapping it and hoping for the best.
yes,
And like one time out of 10, it's just going to go flying into the trees.
I always thought that mini golf would be, as I've gotten older, it'd be more fun if they let you have like adult beverages, like they had a little cart person
Yeah.
going
Oh, yeah.
around. But it probably would be
Yeah.
frowned upon considering it's also a family environment. But
With the children. Yeah.
you can have like
Yeah.
21 plus night at the mini golf course.
See, that's a good idea.
There's a
Like
$1 million
mini golf after
idea.
dark. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Glow mini golf, something like that. But
There's a Glow mini golf place in Old Orchard Beach. We spent like a week in Old Orchard Beach this summer, so I'm like all caught up on my OOB, my pier fries, everything like that.
I think like this is like it's just past peak season, but I think like fall, like OOB, fall MDI are sneaky good. Like that's the time to get down.
Yeah.
Although you don't like, I can't. I don't know if pier fries are still available now. Probably they got to be, right? Like
I think the pier fries are year round.
Where's Dean Plant? Dean will know. Dean
would know.
Pier fries over. Speaking of Old Orchard Beach and pier fries, my God, Old Orchard Beach is fantastic again. We'll talk about.
I was at a game.
Board.
I was at a game at the Greeley game, the Greeley Levitt game, and someone goes, "Oh, Old Orchard Beach is up 32-0." I was like, "Oh, that's pretty good for Booth Bay." And they're like, "Well, it's the first quarter."
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
all right.
Talk about a dynasty. I mean, Old Orchard 120 points for and 18 against in 2 games. Jeez.
Yeah, so let's start with them. So we'll start with 8-man small. So Old Orchard Beach, holy cow.
I mean, more of the same. I mean, that just, it's a great program, and what Dean Plant, the head coach down there, has done for football in Maine as far as, bringing in 8-man, which is, I think, saved a lot of football programs across the state. He's always been a really, really good coach. One of the funniest humans you're ever going to meet. But just they have that thing. They've got that thing figured out down there, and they're doing so well. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. They play really great offense. They play even better defense, and that's still football. If you can do those 2 things really well. But I mean, you look in the north and Stearns. Classic Little 10 conference power. They're coming back in a big way up there. I mean, similar numbers up north. They're 2-0, and they're outscoring opponents quite well at 110-22 up there for the Minutemen. So,
and they play each other this week.
That is a game definitely to watch. That's one that's on my to watch list for certain, because that's going to be that probably could be a potential state championship preview. Although I know, we're only in week 2. Dexter also 2-0 in the north. And you got Telstar undefeated as well. So there's other teams that want to put their name in the conversation, but Stearns and Old Orchard Beach definitely could be an 8-man small state game preview.
Yeah. One of the tricks with Old Orchard Beach with the model is they blow everybody out. So, and the rest of the teams, the South is not strong there. And so there's no like real points for them to get for blowing all these people out. And so the model's like, I don't know. And then, they're just like down in like the 40s. And I'm like, I know they're better than the 40s, but there's just not enough teams that are good enough to give them at least a little bit of a run for their money.
Well, also, I think too with the model, right? Does that also weave in the 11-man teams? So like
the 11-man teams are in there too. Yeah. So they're in, everybody's mixed together.
Well, I mean, they've got Stearns this week, Telstar the week after that, 2 teams that are vying for the top spot in the north. So
they'll have a chance to get some points.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the model's concerned, it'll also help their Crabtrees. But I mean, the best thing you can do with Crabtrees is just win, baby.
You can't worry about anything else, right? You just win the games on the schedule, and when you're done, if you keep doing that, they'll give you a trophy.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you play for Navy, and then they won't. They'll be like, that's too bad.
It's just 2 years in a row. Phoenix wants to make his appearance on this. Well,
it's the place to be. All right, so you talked about how it saved some programs. Let's talk about Greeley.
Yeah,
Greeley is the 8-man large state champions, the quote unquote defending state champions, but they're in Class C now. I saw them this week against Levitt, which was a great game. But so 8-man has basically saved that program, or at least helped keep it viable, because their numbers looked great in 11-man this last week.
Yeah, I mean, to beat Levitt, this is a pretty good Levitt team this year as well. But I mean, when isn't even in a down year, Levitt makes it to a regional final. So I think this is really compelling to me. Is the single region Class C with all 13 teams, top 10 make it. There's several buys out there to be had as well. But I mean, that puts Greeley on an inside track there to try and be, one of those top 4 teams, top 5 teams. But I mean, you got Gardner having a great season, Herman.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 4 teams at the top of C right now, all 2-0. So I think that is one of the more interesting conferences or classes to me, because it's just you got so many teams and there's just so many variables. That's where Crabtrees are. Your strength of schedule is really going to be important in winning a lot of games. But for Greeley to come back 2-0 now after being an 8-man. Great for that program to kind of rebuild themselves. People talk about, why doesn't Old Orchard move up to the large school or back to 11-man? I think the enrollment in Old Orchard Beach is under 150 or under 175. That's hard to
Sounds
sustain.
right.
Hard to sustain 11-man, 11-person soccer. I think they're playing 11-person soccer. I'm not sure, but it's hard to sustain multiple teams there between soccer, cross country, and football. So it works for a school like Old Orchard Beach, and for Greeley with some down years, it works to rebuild that program. That's the beauty of 8-man, between the small and the large. But Greeley definitely one of those. I know fan of the podcast and sometimes contributor Ryan McLaughlin's Brewer Witches at 2-0. He's got to be happy about that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
If we're talking about Class C, let's talk about the Herman Hawks. They have defeated They've defeated the 2 teams that moved up from D last year, defending state champs in Wells, and then also Foxcroft Academy, perennial state champion team in Class D. So,
and not just a perennial state champion, but a team that would come up and just beat up on the teams in C in previous years.
That's exactly right. And Foxcroft and Wells, they're right in the mix there in C, both at 1-1, but. Really good start to the season for the Herman Hawks as well. 2 really close games against quality football teams as well.
I would have thought if you had told me at the beginning of the year, okay, they're going to start with Foxcroft and Wells, I would say if I'm Herman, I'm very happy with a split in that situation. And I'm not going to lose my mind if I'm 0-2, if they're close games. But to be 2-0, they've got to be it's Kyle Gallant, right? Has got to be over the moon with that start.
Unbelievable. He's a great coach. When I was at Winthrop, played them a couple of times, great program, has really done a great job up there at Herman. But the other thing is too, we talk about Crabtrees, you got to imagine that both Wells and Foxcroft are going to win a ton of games. And similar to heel points early in the year, if you can steal those games early in the year where teams are going to win a lot of games, you can kind of feed on that too. And that really, again, gives them an inside track, I think, for one of those buy spots in Class C rather.
Yeah, like in basketball, if you can steal a win early from a team that goes 15-3, 16-2, something like that, because someone's sick or whatever, then that can make your whole season. It makes it so hard for other teams to pass you.
Yeah, and for Wells too, they're down a little bit. They had a huge senior class last year. It's not as plug and play as it normally is for Coach Roach, but they're going to be a team you're glad you got them in week 2 because they're going to be totally different come around week 8 and playoffs when late October and November get here. They're going to be I think that Class C playoff is going to be quite something to watch.
It's going to be a little bit nuts.
Yes. That could be one of the better postseason tournaments probably when it gets to playoff time. I mean, just the depth of talent in schools there, a statewide region. And the number of teams that are going to make the playoffs. And I I know coaches don't usually like buys in a short season like Maine football is, but those buys are going to be very, very critical because it is going to be a gauntlet in Class C, I think.
And you're going to be banged up, and you want to be able to get a little healthy. Yeah. And even if you got an 80% chance to win a game, a buy is 100%. And I know a lot of people aren't great at math, but 100% is better than 80%.
Well, I mean, I just look at Levitt, how many they're in a regional final or winning state championships every year. Foxcroft Academy, obviously running into Wells every year in the state championship, but they're there. Wells has won 2 in a row in Class D. I mean, we're talking about the teams that are 5th and 6th tied in Crabtree points, right in the middle of that pack. Just the championship pedigree in C is quite something.
Yeah, and you've got, I mean, it seems like it's going to be one of those regions where, or I guess classes, where you're going to want, it's going to be really important which side of the bracket you're on. Like if you don't match up well with the team, like if you have bad corners and you get a team that throws the ball a lot, you want to not be with them and you want the team that's just running team.
Yeah, and again, health is also important that time of year too. Matchups are so important in everything, but especially this year. And Gardner, talk about the job that Coach Munzing's doing over there. I mean, they've only let up 6 points in 2 games, and they're 2-0 in Tiger Town. And your Madomic Valley Panthers were very close to being 2-0. Freeport, very sporty Freeport team out of Class D. A big win for them against Madomic Valley last week too.
Almost 2-0 without Jaden Ruiz, who will be back.
Yeah, I mean, once he gets back too, I saw them a little bit in their exhibition game against Winthrop. They've got really good size, just kind of trying to find that speed component. I think once they put all the pieces together there too, I think Madomic Valley could be a tough out.
That might be a situation for Freeport where you catch a team when they're hurt early in the year, and maybe you're able to steal one. We'll see. We don't know. We don't know how good Freeport is. They might be legitimately good.
They're 2-0. They got a pretty tough schedule, so I think that they're could definitely be there. So.
I wanted to ask you about Gardner because Gardner strikes me as one of the surprise teams of the year so far. I didn't really expect them to start 2-0, but I also didn't look at their schedule to see who they got first. Is this a little bit of they've got a good schedule early with? I mean, Old Town looks better this year, but Oceanside's definitely worse this year.
Well, I think the real test is going to be, this week against Wells. But, Coach, Pat Munzing, he's in his 5th year there. So, it takes 3 or 4 years to really get going with what you want for a program, the kids that you want. I mean, you want to test. You take a look at their next 3 games. They host Wells. They're at Doyle Field playing Brewer, another team that's 2-0. And then they got Madomic Valley after that. So, and then Levitt. So, the grinder continues.
Good luck.
then Foxcroft, and then they end with the Cony Gardner game to end the season. So,
jeez.
So we're going to learn a lot about the Tigers here in the next couple of weeks. But I think Pat's done a great job there in Tiger Town, and you got to win the games that are in front of you, and great win against Oceanside, and another good win against Old Town too. So you got to win the games that are on your schedule, and they've done that, and now. They're really going to get a test this week with Wells, and Wells doesn't lose very often. In fact, that's their first loss in probably 2 years, or
something like that. Yeah,
something like that. I mean, they never lost to a D opponent since D came back in 2013. So, and they've been in D. They did play some crossover games, but I mean, that Wells team was loaded. That Wells team is reloading. That should be a really good one in Gardner this week.
That Gardner schedule is a gauntlet. I hadn't realized just how rough that's going to be.
Well, I mean, that's Class C. I mean, that's what Class C is.
Yeah, there's no easy games.
And think about it, Freiburg's no longer in Class C. Imagine if they were still there too. I mean, I think Class C is probably top to bottom one of the most competitive classes.
Yeah, that sounds right. It feels to me, I've said this before, but it feels to me like A North basketball when Camden and Madomic were there.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just absolutely loaded. And you're like, well, if we can make the playoffs, we think we can win the whole thing. But I don't know if we can make the playoffs.
Yeah.
It depends on how the heel points are going to fall for us.
I think, and again, I think in football, even though it's an 8-week season for everybody but A, like the right teams are usually the ones that are there when playoffs roll around too. So, I mean, more important in C this year where it's a statewide class. But
Right. So let me put you on the spot because this is the Overreactions podcast. Give me a state championship game prediction for Class C.
Oh,
we'll put you on a bulletin board here.
Oh God, I've probably been on enough time. I just find it. I find it hard to not see Levitt in that. I just find it so incredibly hard to pick against Mike Hathaway and his staff in big games in that program in big games. Yeah, they're 1-1, but I mean, I don't. I think that Levitt's got to be there, right?
They almost won that game at Greeley.
Yeah, exactly. And they did not play well in that game at Greeley. Not to take anything away from Greeley either.
Not in the
Um,
first half, no.
but I mean, they almost completed that comeback. So I like I like Levitt in that state game, and oh man, this is really on the spot. Uh, I think a Levitt. I wouldn't be surprised to see like a Levitt Wells or like
That's interesting, yeah.
a Levitt Wells would be very interesting. It'd be a hard hitting football game. Um, it could be a Levitt. Is Herman really for real at 2-0? Think about who they've beat. They beat Foxcroft and Wells. A Levitt Herman game would actually be kind of interesting. Give me the teams with wings. Give me some Hornets and Hawks here.
I was sort of leaning Herman because Herman's been one of those teams where I've just been, okay, I see you. You guys have got something going on here.
Yeah, and again, those first two games for Coach Gallant were not easy games, not layup games. I mean, um, those are two quality football programs that have us. They know how to win. They've got Oceanside, Hamden, Skowhegan coming up, so maybe a little bit softer middle of the schedule. Then you got Brewer, and what? They finished the season late October against Levitt. That could be. That could be one for the number one seed. Probably two teams that I would imagine are going to have a bye week after that. So that'll be
Yeah.
a fun game at Libby Field on the 24th of October.
So I'm workshopping my Levitt thing. This is not your all caps Levitt team. This is Levitt with a capital L team. That's sort of how they look to me. Like, it's not that team that was like all world beating, went and beat Thornton Academy, but I think it's a capital L Levitt team.
Well, I mean, that was such a different team. That's like one of the all-time teams when you think about football in Maine and what that team had.
That's the all caps version.
Yeah, that's the all caps team. I give them more than just the capital L and Levitt this year.
Okay.
Remember, they were down. It was a down year for the Hornets last year, and they were still in the regional final and had a chance, right? So like, I find it very, very hard to pick against Mike Hathaway in the big money games. And I think they'll be in those big money games come November.
And they looked really good in the second half against Greeley in
Yes.
that comeback they almost pulled off. And they're a 2-point conversion away from pulling that off.
Exactly. So,
or from at least tying it.
So,
yeah.
So, again, credit to Greeley. They got Levitt, and that's going to be a big win for them. But I also think like that's the kind of loss like you don't want to lose, but that's the kind of loss that I fear for the other teams in Class C because you may have just poked the bear.
You don't want to be the team that plays them next.
No, you don't. And unfortunately for York, there's an upset Levitt team. So
let's talk about York. York has not scored yet this year.
Yeah.
Is this a situation where they played Greeley, they played Nokomis? Has the bottom fallen out a little from York, or did they just get a tough first two games?
I think those are a tough first two games when you look at things there. I mean, Nokomis at 1-1, but they're kind of like 50-50 on their points for and against. I think it's not going to get any easier for the Wildcats, certainly. But hard telling. Coach Nelson's been there a while, and sometimes it just it's a learning process. It's kind of dealing with some of those growing pains. And you want to talk about tough schedule? They got Levitt, then they got Foxcroft, then they got Brewer, right? So talk about 1, 2, 4 wins, Madomic, Wells, and then they end up playing a team from New Hampshire at the end of the season too. So
right,
very tough schedule for York. So I think tough schedule does come into play. But 4-4 probably gets you in Class C. So just get there, right? Just get me a seat at the table.
Right. So you got it. There's 3 teams that aren't going to make it, right? There's 13 in the class, and then 10 get in. Is it 10?
It looks like the top 10 get in. So
you got to beat 3 teams, and so let's say it's Oceanside's one of them. They might be, if it's Oceanside and I don't know Old Town, that might be 2 teams that will struggle to get in, being 0-2. So yeah, I mean, getting in is not going to be super hard, but it's going to be a gauntlet once you get there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there is really an easy schedule for anybody in C when you really
No,
look at the teams that they're playing and across the board. So, right now,
that'll be fun.
four teams are 2-0, 5 teams are 1-1, and 4 teams are 0-2. Like, you want to talk about parity in football? It's in Class C right now.
So it'll be fun. All right, so let's move on to. I want to talk about Skowhegan.
Mm.
They beat Lawrence 14-13, which I thought was a pretty big upset. It seemed like a pretty big upset. Mike Mandel had a story about it. That's Lawrence's first home conference loss since 2022, which was also to Skowhegan.
Yeah, Kais Field's a tough place to go and win. Lawrence is a storied traditional program. That's a big win for the Riverhawks too, trying to really, get themselves, taking that next step. There's another team I want to talk about. Like, you kind of hit that glass ceiling as a program, and once you finally break through that, like, things really take off. And to beat Coach Hersom, who's been there forever at Lawrence, that's a high quality win for Skowhegan, certainly. 1-1 on the season, and in a very tough Northern B where you've got Cony and Freiburg to contend with, both at 2-0, and probably the conference runs through those two teams in the North, but Skowhegan inserting themselves into that conversation with Lawrence, and then you got 3 teams at the bottom, Meso, Mount Blue, and Brunswick. Mount Blue, who played Freiburg really tough this past weekend. It was 15-0, I think it was the final score.
Mm-hmm.
So, really good showing from the Cougars. Craig Collins up there in his first year now. So, it's a huge win for Skowhegan. And it probably, it puts them in a good position. Again, it's about where do you want to end up in that bracket. Top 6 get in. And that's one that probably helps you get up there. Meso, Mount Blue, and Brunswick. I know it's still early. We're just past the quarter pole, but it gets late quick in an 8-game season. And when the top 6 get in, you don't want to be in the bottom 2. They all play each other at some point. Those are some games you got to win, but that's a big win for Skowhegan because Lawrence is going to win some football games. And you talk about the Crabtrees, that'll get them up there.
Is it's safe to say that Cony's been the most impressive team in that region so far?
Oh, 100%.
They won 55-6 against Brunswick, and was it 47-0 opening week? Something like that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of it is, Parker Morin's coming into his own as a quarterback. I think, last year it was kind of how he goes, the night went. I mean, think about, he set the school record for touchdown passes in a game against Messalonsky, but he had also, I'm sure BL, when he listens, will confirm or correct me. I think he might also hold an interception record of some kind over there at Cony as well. But
I saw the game when they played Madomic, and he had like 2 or 3 interceptions in the first 2 or 3 drives, and everyone was just sort of looking around like, oh, okay.
But that's that. I talked about it earlier. It's that glass ceiling thing, right? When you finally piece everything together, and they play really good complementary football over there at Cony as well. So, he's really settled in. They're going to get a test, and they got Oxford Hills coming up. Not this week. They're at Mount Blue, and Mount Blue played a physical football game against Freiburg. Can Mount Blue come out in a second week in a row and take one of the top 2 teams in the division and give them a physical test? That Freiburg game, though, the first week in October, that's going to really kind of be, for me, I think, the real litmus test for what both Freiburg and Cony are. But right now, I mean, it's Cony's world, it feels like, and Class B North is just living in it, and Freiburg is knocking on the door right behind him.
And then, so let's talk about B South. Is Falmouth still the team to beat there, do you think?
I think so. Kennebunk obviously wants to get back to that state game. I think it's interesting that Kennebunk and Falmouth, they played in the state game last year, but now they're in the same region this year.
I don't know why they moved Falmouth back down to the south, or actually, I don't know why they were in the north to begin with.
I mean, there's a lot of geography questions when it comes to who's in what region and why.
Have you seen Class D soccer?
Have I seen what?
Class D soccer's classifications.
No,
Machias is in the south.
Who's in the South in D soccer?
Machias.
Like maybe like in South Machias. Is that where the school is? Is that like...
No, it's the North is a rustic county, and then everybody else is in the South.
That's, well, I mean, Machias is south of Aroostook County. I'll give them that.
It is.
Well, I mean, you also have in D soccer Monmouth is a Class D school, Buckfield. So
yeah,
we'll talk about
it's a mess.
We'll
There's a ton of teams in 8-man now.
Talk about some playoff rides there, but
Whew.
yeah. But back to B South. I know Kennebunk really, Falmouth, really played a great state game against them. That'll be a fun game coming up. Cheverus, at 2-0 on the season. But like Ric Flair said, if you want to be the man, you gotta beat the man. They still have some really good talent on that team too, in Falmouth too, Falmouth. So, and I love Coach Emerson. Spencer does a great job there too. So, but again, Kennebunk, they were senior heavy, but they still have Austin West on that team. But they graduated quite a few. They've had some good linemen in Colin Quayle, who's back with them. But for Falmouth, I mean, Trey Walker back at quarterback had 1,600 yards passing last year. But again, that was a group that was pretty senior laden. But he also has Ben Robbins back at receiver too from last year's team. So, but you got Trey Walker. It's a kid who he's the full package at quarterback.
Yeah, is Trey Walker? He's in the Fitzy conversation, obviously. Let's take a side trip to handicap Fitzy. Taking a quick break from the show to tell you why you should subscribe to mainbasketballrankings.com. Yes, it's an ad for the website on the podcast, hosted on the website, and you'll get over it. So at mainbasketballrankings.com for $6 a month, you get rankings that are very good, and they hate your team without question, but it's all sorts of fun information about your team, about their strength of schedule, how their scoring offense ranks, their scoring defense, lots of things like that. You also get heel points, which you can read, because have you seen the other options for heel points? It's a disaster. You can read these, you can see that your schedule coming up, be like, oh, that team's not worth a lot of points. Oh, this team's worth a lot of points. This is the game we have to win. You also get a spread for every game on the schedule. Hey, we're only favored by 2.5 points tonight. That's ridiculous. Are you kidding me? We're 1.5 point underdogs. That's crazy. And then maybe you're wondering why your coach is coaching so hard, down 15 in the fourth quarter. Well, it's because he's a 13.5 point underdog, and it doesn't matter, but he wants to beat the spread because we always want to beat the spread, no matter who we are. So that's mainbasketballrankings.com, $6 a month, or for the free version, you can get a daily newsletter during the season. Now, back to the show. So it's Trey Walker. It's the receiver in Portland, right? Is it Cordell Jones?
Cordell Jones, who's a quarterback he's the quarterback now.
He's the quarterback. Okay.
He moved over to quarterback.
Is Parker Morin in that discussion?
I mean, I think you got to look at what he does for numbers, but he certainly is taking those steps forward. I think he could definitely be in that conversation. And there's some really talented players. Bonnie Eagle too. Bonnie Eagle's loaded. The McCormick kid down there is a tough running back. Plays really well. Just gotta go through all my notes of all the teams I've seen so far this year too. But Colin Moran, quarterback down there, really has had a great start to the season. And then they've got Colby McCormick, also a running back down there at Bonnie Eagle. I would think that those are a couple of guys that that might put themselves into that conversation as well. For the Fitzy, it's still a little early for me. I haven't canvassed enough to really handicap it, but I think those are some names to keep eyes on here.
It sounds more competitive maybe than last year.
I think so. I mean, it was pretty clear cut early and how things were going to go last year, but really, it's wide open. Cordell Jones had a tremendous game, ran for 3 touchdowns against Windham last Friday night, a game that Rob Kennedy and I had on WHOU. And he looked more comfortable in that quarterback position than he did the week before, certainly. it's hard not to have his name in that conversation. Certainly, and then what are we going to learn about Thornton Academy? We haven't talked about A yet, but they're
Oh yeah.
right in that conversation too. So I know the AU kid is a senior this year, and he was pretty solid for them last year too.
So let's start with Portland. They've got a new coach. They're the defending champs.
Mm-hmm.
You saw them firsthand with Windham. They have a nice new playing field to play on.
Yes.
That which is pretty cool. Like, how good is this Portland team? What are their chances of repeating?
Well, I think it's I think they have a good shot in A North. They're 2-0. The thing is, they're not winning pretty, but when you have the turnover you have, and you have to move the pieces that you had to move around. I mean, Lewis Thurston was a tremendous quarterback for them, and you move Cordell Jones from that receiver role where it's harder to defend a guy out in isolation as a receiver than it is to defend somebody at quarterback, because it's a little easier to scheme for somebody that's playing kind of an island. You can play some bracket coverage. You can do some different things. There's just so many different things that he can do in the backfield running the football. Behind a really talented, that line was pretty stout against Windham. And here's a hot take for you. Do not count Windham out. I think Windham is in the conversation in A North before the end of the year. I mean, that is a team that is close. Having seen them 3 or 4 times the last couple of years, they are so close. And they've got a really talented quarterback too, sophomore quarterback. Let me pull my game notes up. I want to make sure I get his name right, because I'm currently also neck deep in prepping for Dartmouth football this weekend. So I've got about a million different names running through my mind right now.
That's a good problem to have, though.
For somebody who went to school for broadcasting and then got into coaching and then finally found a way back into broadcasting. Big shout out to Rob Kennedy, by the way, for helping open some doors for me there. Have a blast doing games with Rob. It's a good problem to have. But
I have a similar thing where I went to school for broadcasting and then went and did other things, and now I'm doing this, which is sort of kind of broadcasting. There's a microphone involved.
It's 100%
at least
broadcasting.
All right, good. That's good. What's interesting, because when we were in college, you'd go, okay, I'm going to be in broadcasting, I'm going to do this thing, and then you really look around and you're like, there's none of these guys are retiring. None of these jobs are opening.
Well, it wasn't just that none of these guys were retiring, but you think about the evolution of, not to get too sidetracked from Windham here for a second, but the evolution of media. You are able to have your podcast and your blog and all that. Those were things, blogging was a thing. We're not that old, and that far removed from college.
We had stone tablets. Yeah, we would mail them to people.
Our Twitter was carrier pigeons. That was our Twitter back in the day.
But, did you do a fantasy league where they would mail you the stats at the?
No, I never did the mail-in stat fantasy league, but no, but I won the pick league 2 years running when I was the sports director at WHSN at Husson, so I had that going for me.
There you go.
No, the quick sidetrack to media, it's so accessible. Anybody, with a laptop and internet connection can create a video podcast. There's so many more opportunities. I mean, and think about if you're looking for some silver linings from the COVID days and years, is how much streaming has got out there. I mean, think about Thornton Academy. Cole Purvis, who graduated from Thornton Academy a couple years ago, is a sophomore at Syracuse now, and he's on a fast track. He is very talented.
He's crushing it.
Very talented broadcaster when he was in high school, and he's doing a great job there at Syracuse. That's talk about schools with broadcast pedigree. Syracuse is one of them, but
that's one of the best.
Yeah.
And I mean, a WHOU streaming games all over Southern Maine. That wasn't a thing 10 years ago. It was Munzing Media doing Gardner home games, and I mean that was most of it, right?
Yeah, and Rob Munzing, who does was also longtime Gardner guy, was the Gardner football coach. He was ahead of the curve with that, and they still do such great work. They do a lot of work for Central Maine Community College too. So, Coach Munzing has done games for him, and he's always been a blast to work for. And there's a lot more opportunity now, I think, than there was before when it comes to the broadcasting side of things. But it still is a matter of it's you got to still do your homework. You still can't just roll up on game night with just a roster and maybe some press clippings. The Dartmouth game that Rob and I are doing, we've been working on that, both individually for prep since Saturday, Sunday, and we'll work through the entire week to make sure everything is there. I mean, when we did the state game last year, 2 games, we did both state games. That was, there's a lot of prep that goes into it. And I think that's the other thing is the more opportunities are out there and the more people that put the work and the elbow grease into it. I love the opportunities for kids. It would have been something for students. I would have loved to have had those opportunities. My first kind of play-by-play stuff was after I graduated high school. MCI kind of had started a little local access cable TV, and I did some games for them as an alum and doing football. Like that's just how it starts. So, not to get too sidetracked, but for Windham, back on topic.
Let's get back to Windham.
The tangent there. First of all, really great running back in Parker Sperry. He's a junior, and he is the real deal. You want to talk about handicapping Fitzy's? His senior year, he's definitely going to be in that conversation. But then they got a sophomore quarterback, Patrick Davenport, as a sophomore. I was really impressed with his game the other night. He made some heady plays. He had one bad decision on an interception that cost him, but I thought he played really well. And again, it's that glass ceiling thing. I think Windham is so close. You want a hot take? Windham Portland regional.
Love it.
Final. Windham Portland regional.
Final. Interesting. Wyndham's been on a run. Wyndham sports.
Yeah, I really think that Windham could put themselves in that conversation. Not to say that Oxford Hills, Bangor, Deering, Edward Little, they're all right there. I mean, I think it's wide open, but I would not be surprised to see Portland and Windham playing in a regional final.
And then, how much on the other side of the bracket is it? Is it TA and everybody else? Because it sure looks like it so far.
It might look at it, but man, we saw Bonnie Eagle week 1, and do they look good? They look well-rounded. I mean, they're always going to be very well coached at Bonnie Eagle. I mean, Kevin Cooper is one of the best in the state. That Bonnie Eagle TA game, that was a close game last year. It was a late, I think it was like a 99-yard fumble recovery by TA, kind of really flipped that game on its head in the third quarter, I want to say. Or at least in the second half. Circle your calendars for that Bonnie Eagle TA game, because I mean that's going to be kind of a highlight of things to come. And that game is on the 24th. There's some really good games on October 24th. I think that Bonnie Eagle TA game might be one that Rob and I have for the SMAA game of the week. If we don't, we certainly should.
But flex it out.
Yeah, flex scheduling will definitely take place by the time that rolls around. But and Noble, right? Jameer Rhodes is no longer there, and rumors of Noble's demise are greatly exaggerated. Here they are, 2-0. So
beat South Portland.
Yeah, I mean beat South Portland, and that's a South Portland team that a lot of people were high on. I'm still not selling on South Portland, but again at 0-2 and the top 4 get in. They got to start putting some wins together here in the next couple of weeks. But I think it's TA, Bonnie Eagle are right there with each other. Be interesting to see how Noble, when as the season progresses and grows. But I mean that Noble win that they had, it was a sloppy win in week 1 against Windham, but they found a way. Answered some questions. What are you going to do without Fitzy winner Jameer Rose and all this? But here they are sitting at 2-0. But I really like both Thornton Academy and Bonnie Eagle. It's so hard to pick between the two of them, but I think it probably is Thornton Academy, Bonnie Eagle, then like maybe Noble, and then kind of a little bit in the middle. But I think Thornton Academy and Bonnie Eagle are the 2 class teams in that region right now.
Okay, and it just occurred to me that we skipped pretty much completely over Class D.
Well,
who do you like in Class?
Back to them.
Who do you like in Class D? Let's talk Class D.
Class D. All right.
I mean, BAPS looks pretty good, right? They're D, right?
Yeah, D. Yeah, they're 2-0. They've scored 100 points in 2 games. Winslow.
I'm trying to keep track of my schools and conferences and sports.
Well, I mean, that's also the thing, right? Like you got some teams like Freeport, Class B in a lot of things, but they're Class D in football. Like it's just there's a
And
lot.
I think of them as Class A in basketball because they were in Class. Are they
Oh,
still
they
in
were
Class A in
they
basketball?
no, they were A in basketball. You're right. So for A in
Yeah. So
basketball, um,
D in football.
and D in football. But I mean, yeah,
Who
it's a
knows?
different discussion for a different time. I don't think there's ever a perfect way to do classification, especially like
Yeah.
a sport like football. But and we also didn't do 8-man large yet either. But we'll get
Oh
there
right.
before everything's all said and done. But you look at D, Winslow and John Bapps having really good seasons so far. Winslow with a very impressive week 1 win over Maranacook.
Oh yeah.
I think this Winslow team is rounding into really good form. Physical football team. Wes Littlefield is a great coach. Really big test this week for them and the number 1 team right now in D South, Freeport. Two undefeated teams. That's going to be a good Saturday game over there in Winslow, and that'll kind of shake some things out. And that game is big for a couple of reasons too. When you look at Crabtree points, because right now there's 3 teams that are 2-0 in D South, but there's only a tie for first. There's been the tiebreakers applied and everything on the main
Mhm.
on the main high school football page. But you got Freeport, Deergo, and Winthrop, Monmouth, Halldale, all at 2-0. But you can already kind of see, if you look at the Crabtree Classic or the weekly, they're all at 125. But the strength of schedule really is going to start to play in. Oak Hill, don't count them out of that D South region. But and Madison picking up their first home win in forever. They beat Lisbon last week. So good win for the Bulldogs up there. That's a team that has been back and forth between 11 and 8-man too. So good win for the Bulldogs. I know Coach Polkey, down at Lisbon, working on piecing that thing back together and getting that program, heading in the direction that everybody wants to see it go in as well. So a lot of interesting stories in D, but Freeport, really good team. Deergo, and this Winthrop Monmouth Halldale team, Kents Hill as well. That's a really good football
18 different teams.
the the Lakes region football team. I try to stay pretty neutral. I have very deep Winthrop ties. I coached there for a long time,
Sure.
but that's another good football team. They got some really good running backs. Really talented backfield. I know that their quarterback Jacob Fife, also a state champion javelin thrower, got injured last week. Porter Levine, I believe he's a sophomore, stepped in, played really well for them as well. They got Ben Porter on the outside. Dierigo has the Lufkin kid at quarterback. I think he might be the best overall quarterback. And then Poland's also 1-1, but they've got some firepower there too. So that D South region is really interesting because there are some teams in that region that don't play each other. Like Winthrop and Freeport don't
Ooh.
play each other. So that could be really interesting coming down the stretch. Like you might have a scenario where Freeport and Winthrop go undefeated this year. But I think Freeport's strength of schedule would put them in at 1 and Winthrop would put them in at 2, especially where you've got Madomic and Winslow on that schedule. 2 teams are going to win a bunch of football games. So
So I want to circle.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to circle back to that, but I wanted to first hit the. It had never occurred to me that a quarterback would also be a good javelin thrower. That would be the
Yeah.
good secondary sport that would that you always think of like a point guard or
Yeah.
something.
Great
But a
kid.
javelin thrower, that makes sense.
Great kid, strong arm. I think he holds the school record now too for javelin, if I remember correctly from
I
back
mean, it's
during
a similar motion, sort of. You're
similar
sort of throwing
motion,
from a
but I mean, one's a
sideways,
spear
sort
and
of.
one's a spear and one's something that has been speared, I guess. So, um, but no, I mean,
I've just never heard of that.
state champion javelin thrower. A really good kid. You don't want to ever see anybody get hurt, but Ross Fickthorn in the
Especially
backfield.
not by a javelin throw.
Yeah. So I don't want to feel like I'm just giving off a laundry list of Winthrop kid names. The Lufkin kid from Deergo has got a great arm. New coach up there in Deergo with Craig Collins moving on to going back to his alma mater at Mount Blue. But Deergo 2-0. Opening night win against Lisbon. Who else have they played? If I knew how to
Deergo?
Diergo.
They beat Poland this week.
They beat Poland, and Poland is pretty solid football team as well. So
that was Channel 8's game of the day.
It was a pretty good game too. So um, you got some really good teams on both. There's 2 or 3 teams easily on both sides of D that could be there at the end too. I mean, you got Josh Newhall is the new coach up at Dirigo. They got a big game against Oak Hill coming up. If you want to, trying to work for some of that, home field playoff positioning. The Raiders got back on the winning column after a game. It's probably a little closer than the score indicated against Winthrop in week 1. Winthrop pulled away in the second half, but Oak Hill, Chad Stoll there again. Another coach in their 5th year. I mean, a big rebound for Oak Hill. They came back. They lost to Winthrop 28-12. I think it was a fumble recovery for a touchdown or something like that. They only gave up 21 offensive points or something like that. But then, came back and really handled Morse pretty well. So this game against Dirigo is going to be very, very important for them up in Dixfield on Saturday.
Real quick, explain the Crabtrees to people who are maybe just understand the heel points.
Okay.
Like the 1 minute explanation of what's different between Crabtrees and heel points.
So heel points are more a measure of when you beat a team that has got a lot of wins. Your Crabtrees are based. So the real simple thing is your Crabtrees are your winning percentage plus your opponent's combined winning percentage times 100. And that's how you get the number. So if you've won all your games, you already start with 100. And if your opponents on the season went, 5-5, 4-4, your Crabtree would be 150. It's too early now because you haven't woven in all of the teams that you've played yet and their records. So I've seen how is this team that scored, X number more points or, A beat team B, but then, lost to team C. Why is team B not ahead of team? It takes a while it takes a little bit longer for Crabtrees to work themselves out, but they're much easier to calculate than heel points because heel points are like the ultimate butterfly effect. Like you could have
that's why I love them.
I want to know how Islesboro is going to finish, but I've got to wait to see how everyone else that they played does. It's much more fractal, I guess, if that's a good math term. Crabtrees are much more they're much 1-to-1 almost. Where
I like how in heel points, we're we don't quite know who made the playoffs in Class A. We in Class A North because we need this Class C South game to finish up first.
Exactly,
and that's somehow going to swing this tournament spot over here.
And that's the cool thing about heel points, but you're also the most helpless feeling about heel points too. Where Crabtrees are much more straightforward. Strength of schedule, you get rewarded for playing tougher. You get rewarded for playing a tougher schedule with the Crabtrees. Where I think it's the best way I could phrase it is you get rewarded for playing a tough schedule on Crabtrees as long as you can win. You get rewarded for beating teams that have a lot of wins. It might not be a tough schedule. Think of teams that you've seen go in as a 1 seed that might play a schedule that's primarily one class below them, and they end up being the 1 seed in their class, and they lose to an 8 seed.
Right.
That's kind of the difference, right? I think
the team that's 2 and whatever, and then but since that one game they won was against a team that has 12 wins, they're way up.
That bumps them up, even though they might not have a lot of wins. So, I mean, there's benefits to both. I think they did use Crabtrees for a while for football, but it was also tough for a while too when teams were just kind of playing within their conference or within their region. It all just kind of worked itself out by winning percentage. But now with the number of crossovers, that schedule is really important, and that strength of schedule is really important too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's all about the schedule because you can easily manipulate your heel points by, like you said, playing down a class and just feasting on teams that have a lot of wins. My favorite thing is always to look at the thing and go, oh, this team has a soft schedule that we're playing, and nobody else in our region is playing them, that's a must-win game for us because those are clean heel points that are going to be worth a lot because they're feasting on a lot of like 2-win teams, and they might be 9-9, but they're really like a 5-win team.
Yeah, exactly. Like the quality, like you get rewarded with the Crabtrees more for playing a quality schedule. You don't always get rewarded for quality wins with the heel points.
Because the downside to Crabtrees is you and I could play the same schedule, and I could beat the really good team. Let's say we both play Levitt. We play the same schedule. I beat Levitt, you lose to Levitt, and you beat Old Town instead, and I lose to Old Town or whatever. I've got the better win on my schedule than you do, but we have the same Crabtrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is kind of like the one flaw, but as has been said by good close coaching friends, generally the best teams are playing at the biggest moments, and the best team generally wins. So like,
and I shouldn't have lost to Old Town in that situation.
No, you shouldn't have. Maybe maybe you had some ineligibles. Maybe just a bad night. I mean, it could be anything. Maybe maybe I only lost to Levitt by 1, and you beat Levitt by 1, and
that's why the model is superior to the heel points because the margin of victory matters.
Yes, and like again, like that's the other thing is people like look at like, oh, Team X, they won 40-0 against Team Y, and then Team A only beat Team X, or Team Y by like 2 points. Why is my team not ranked higher? A win is a win. So at the end of the day, that's what you can control. Control the games that you win. I am kind of back pocket rooting for that scenario in D South. It'd be really cool to have 2 undefeated teams meet in a regional final potentially, and that
it'd be good drama.
That it would be great drama, but that potential definitely exists in D South because Freeport and Winthrop do not play each other. So that could be really interesting drama come that time. But both teams are going to win out. So Freeport has got to take care of Winslow this week. I know Winthrop's on the road against Lisbon. And even though Lisbon's 0-2, I heard they might be getting some kids back. Plus, I mean, that's a storied rivalry that goes back, pre-World War II. So, I mean, old rivalries. There's one right there for you.
All right, so now let's finish up with 8-man large school. I saw, so Greeley's gone. They're in 11-man. We've already talked with them. They're defending champions. I went to the Mount Ararat Camden game, which was really feisty for a week 2 game. Like they were yelling at each other. The Camden coach got a unsportsmanlike penalty for running his mouth, or as I like to call it, giving real-time performance feedback for the officiating crew.
There's a lot of that happens, but when you're, it's a lot different when you're 20 yards away from the field and the bleachers, eating popcorn than when you have a headset 6 feet from the sidelines. The performance review is weighted a little bit, I would say.
But I will, to his credit, I think I talked to him a little bit about it afterwards, and he was definitely trying to motivate the guys because they were not playing well at that moment. And what he did is he did it after after a touchdown and before the 2-point conversion, and not like on 3rd and 5 or something like that, when the penalty is just going to be on the kickoff. And so that's less of a penalty to your team than like costing your team a first down or something like that. So that was, I thought, pretty smart on his part.
Yes. And those are the moments you kind of pick and choose your spots. That certainly is, that's one way to go ahead and do it. I don't hate it if it helps get your kids motivated. But you also want to make sure you're not doing it in a critical situation where you create a disadvantage, where you give a team a first down because of the unsportsmanlike, or you put yourself, well behind the chains. Like there's a time and a place to do that. But I mean, came out with a win against Mount Ararat. Both Mount Ararat now 1-1, and Camden 2-0. So
it was a big second half for Camden. They were down at the half, and then one of their coaches came over to me. He's like, "We're going to prove you wrong," because Mount Ararat was favored by 2.5, and they did it. Braden Beveridge had a monster second half, and you'll appreciate this. They had this defensive tackle or end or something. I didn't quite catch which position he was playing, but he was really not a factor for the whole game. And then in the final drive, when Mount Ararat needed desperately to score points, he just woke up and he had a sack, and he
Mm-hmm.
like broke up another play and caused a fumble. And I was talking to someone on the sideline. They're like, "This is his second football game. He was a soccer player," and I'm like, "That's a big soccer player."
That's yeah, and that takes a lot to kind of come over. I think that there is a learning curve. I think when you come over, especially from another sport, like football is unnatural in the fact that you're running full speed at another human being who's running full speed, and you're getting in car crash after car, like 15, 20 mile an hour car crashes repeatedly for 48 minutes. It
It's a little
takes,
crazy.
it's very crazy, but I think it's a fantastic game. It's my favorite game. And I've coached 3 different sports, but had a lot of fun with basketball. I still love coaching track, but football will always be my favorite. And it's cool to see kids like that kind of bring some of those skill sets over and those light bulb moments. Like, I guess that's kind of been the theme here in week 2 is like, can you break through the glass ceiling? And once you do that, like I've always found with teams I've coached or teams I've watched, and I think there's a regional team here that we watch on Sundays that they're right there. They're making that you make that next step, and then there's some exponential growth until that next
Mm-hmm.
level. Like, it's a lot easier to go from a 4 to a 5 than it, or a 7 to an 8 than it is from an 8 to an 8.5. And I think those teams that are getting right there, that are bumping up against that point, whatever, there's a lot of breakthroughs to be had out there. I mean, I don't think Mount Ararat's out of the conversation by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh no.
No, but I mean Camden Hills,
And then I think Lake Region is probably one of the teams to talk about. That was Ryan McLaughlin mentioned Lake Region. Did I just cut out?
No, you're still there.
Okay, I'm still there.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're
great.
still there.
But Ryan McLaughlin mentioned Lake Region as maybe a team to keep an eye on in 8-man large.
Yeah, I think good things coming for the Lakers. They got a really talented junior senior class of athletes. I know that I know it's the main basketball rankings podcast, and it's not basketball season, but I know that Sam Smith, who was just recently the Meso coach and is now the head coach at
Mm-hmm.
Lake Region, really likes the group of guys that he worked with this summer. A lot of really good athletes down there too. And you look at that region for eight man small.
Can I throw in a plea to Sam Smith first if you're watching?
Yes, you can throw in a plea to Sam.
I know there's probably a reason why this exists, but I'm just begging you to take the Los Angeles Lakers logo off the floor and put a Lake Region Lakers logo on the floor. That's just all I'm asking as someone who watches streams sometimes.
That might be more of a Paul True question than a Sam Smith question.
It might be. I'm just saying, I think I would rather see a Lake Region Lakers logo than a Los Angeles Lakers logo.
With the fish, right? Is that
with the fish. Give me the fish. That's not the Greenville ones with the fish holding out the basketball.
Oh, yes.
The Lake Region one, I think it's just a fish jumping or something.
Yeah, very nautical.
Yeah.
Can you be nautical on a lake? Does that translate?
I don't know what the rules are on that.
Also, don't look now, but Spruce Mountain 2-0. They've scored 80 points and only allowed 8 up there. The Phoenix playing well in 8-man too.
And they're an 8-man large, right?
They're an 8-man large. Devin Roberts, who has coached a bunch of different places, including Mountain Valley just up the road, has got that team. Only giving up 8 points in 2 games of 8-man football is pretty darn impressive. I mean,
yeah.
Even I think Old Orchard's given up more than 8 points in 2 games, and like that, you look at those guys as one of the gold standards. Mount Ararat was in that state game last year against Greeley. So obviously, a couple of classes with new state champions on the way. But Spruce Mountain looking pretty sporty, looking pretty gamey there as well. So.
And you, of course, have your Spruce Mountain bias from your times on the bench there.
I do have a soft spot in my heart for the Phoenix. That's my cat's name is Phoenix because it was gifted to me by that girls basketball team that we made a run to states in. And you look at look at those 8-man. Spruce is moving from 8-man small up to 8-man large. By the way, they were 7-1 in 8-man.
That's what threw me because I was like, aren't they in small? But yeah, they're moving. I'm remembering now they moved.
So you move up to large, and you're doing. You haven't lost a step. I mean, you only had 1 loss last year. in the regular season, and then you lost to Sockeye Valley in the playoffs. But 7-1 regular season. Now you move up to 8-man large, and Spruce Mountain's right there. You know, Great New Gloucester also. 5-3 last year. They continue to do good work there, undefeated to start the season. 3 teams up top, undefeated. What did Lake Region do last year in small? They were large last year, weren't they? They were
I
6-2.
think so.
Still right there. They lost to Greeley. They were in the regional final. Regionals. It was statewide, so they were in the semi and lost to Greeley, who went on to win the state championship. I think Lake Region.
Yeah, they beat Mount Ararat.
Pretty sure Lake Region's only 2 losses were to Greeley last year as well. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure.
Andrew Hart's going to be in the comments.
Well, I'll
just tell you like a ninja.
I can tell you right now. Oh, they lost to Orono, it looks like, as well. No, maybe not. I'm looking. Andrew Hart's got a tremendous. I'm just trying to navigate everything that's on there.
It's hard to search the internet and give takes at the same time. This is why you're a pro.
Yes. Yeah, it looks like probably Orono. I think it was Orono late in the year that they lost to, but still.
Okay.
But no, I think that again, really compelling region, a really compelling class too. Camden Hill's doing well. 3 teams that are undefeated. Mount Ararat right there too. I mean, they're only a -14 on point differential. Don't count the Eagles out by the time it's all said and done too. So top 4.
Yeah, and that was a very competitive game. I saw. The big difference was Braden Beveridge in the second half, and then Camden had their quarterback back that missed the end of last year, Hollis Schwalm.
Yeah,
Schwalm. I think I said that wrong. His mother's going to yell at me for saying that wrong. So
better you than me. I've had enough parents yell at me in my lifetime coaching. I don't need that anymore.
They yell at me less than they do coaches because, I can put their kid in the newsletter or something.
Exactly. Like, yeah, you have an easy way to like get back in their good graces.
Yeah.
That's why.
Oh yeah, that kid's really good.
That's why I love being in the media better.
It's much nicer. Yeah, and the booth is heated sometimes.
Oh, okay. So let's pump the brakes on that. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to.
You could bring a space heater.
What? Oh yeah, we had like 2 space heaters in the booth last year at the state game at Fitzy. But excited for all the renovations that the Hearts of Pine have, and the money into that facility. I
gotta get a jersey.
No. No. My next investment's a heated vest. Rob has one. I don't. I also wear shorts like late into the season. It's still like football. It's still ingrained in me. Like I never wore pants on a game night ever.
You and Ryan
wore shorts. I was covered up at least. I say I didn't wear. No, I always wore shorts. So that was just.
I might get a heated vest or maybe some better gloves for like trying to hold the phone up.
Yeah, they make heated gloves.
Yeah. It's true. It's just you maybe cut the tips off of the fingers so you can still type on your keyboard.
This is also true.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of Rob, who do you and Rob have this week?
We're actually off this week from WHOU. I know.
Okay.
But if you want to check us out,
are you going to end up at a game anyway?
It's a good question. There are a couple of tantalizing ones out there, but it's an early morning to head over to Hanover for Dartmouth. So we got a game this weekend. We got Dartmouth UNH. I know that UNH in Maine football, oil and water. They always fighting for the Bryce Cowell musket.
Yeah.
My loyalties are with the Big Green this weekend. Excited to go out there and check that game out and do that. Should be really cool, especially where Ivy League teams are now FCS eligible for the playoffs. And New Hampshire 23rd right now in the latest FCS poll. So they just came off a loss to Ball State last week, and this is Dartmouth's first game of the season. So, you can check that out on the Learfield Varsity app. We'll do a little plug for them. It's free if you miss Rob and I this weekend. But we're back at it for high school football next week. But plenty of great games
on WHOU. What do you have on WHOU in 2 weeks?
That is a good question that I don't have the answer to off the top of my head. That would be. You'll find us somewhere. It'll be an SMAA game. I know that. So
okay. You guys do fantastic work. Give me your scale of 1 to 10. How you feel about the Patriots? 10 being peak Tom Brady, 1 being last year.
Oh, we're easily.
Or maybe like Steve Grogan years.
I almost did the new meme thing for the kids are doing like 6-7. But uh,
Is that the Larry David meme? Like,
I, I, I don't know. I work at a high school. You think I would know these things? I don't want to know.
you should know the memes.
I should know the memes. I don't want to know the memes. Um, I can't quantify it. I think it's going to be. Uh, I felt at the beginning of the year that they were going to be a 9 or 10 win team and in the run for the playoffs. I still believe that. I think that the Raiders team that they lost to was a decent Raiders team, and they made some boneheaded mistakes. Um, but the game at Miami, like they hadn't scored over 30 points since Brock Purdy got a start for them, like 22 or 23 or something like that, and they hadn't won in Miami since before COVID. So um, that's a game that the last 2 or 3 years, even when Belichick was there, that's still a game I feel like that they lose. I know Devon
Mm-hmm.
Hackney stepped out of bounds at 26, and that was a difference maker. But they showed some grit, and they found a way to win a football game and win an ugly football game. And I think that they might be able to beat the Steelers this week. I think they could beat the Steelers. I think the Jets were exposed for what they really are. I think the Steelers are a solid football team. I don't think they're better than the Raiders. I think that the Patriots are the second best team in the AFC East right now. I think they can beat the Steelers and the Panthers, and they could wrap up September 3-1. So, still very high on the Patriots. I'm not saying Super Bowl. I'm not saying playoff win. I'm saying that 9 to 10 wins and around a playoff spot would be wildly refreshing compared to what it's been the last couple of years.
I'm feeling pretty good about my exact order AFC East bet of Bills Patriots, and then I bet both of Miami Jets, both orders of that, and that because I figured I'd get one of them. And I was very happy that Drake May got to 230 yards because that's what I needed for my parlay. Nice. I needed him to get to 230 exactly, and I was sweating it, late because I was like, oh, he's gonna come up like 5 yards short. This sucks.
I didn't have any action out there other than in fantasy football. One of the worst bad beat losses of all time. I lost 113.12 to 113.04. Nico Collins, that drop that he had cost me from being 2-0 in one of my leagues. Another league, my favorite name. This will be the last me plug. We started with you as my ace. I think it was I didn't copy it from the internet. I'm sure it's probably out there, but one of my most creative fantasy football teams I ever came up with, and in a league I have, Mayflower Compact.
I like it. So, I had my worst fantasy football beat was on the Monday night game. On the last play of the game, Wes Welker got stopped 1 yard short of what I needed to win the week.
Oh.
And it's Wes Welker. He always would get that extra like 2 yards, and that game that play only got the extra 1 yard.
Yeah. No, I love what Mike Vrabel is doing there in New England. I think that that's a gritty football team. They're not going to, they're probably not a team that's going to blow a lot of teams out. They're going to be a team that's probably not going to, win a lot of pretty games. Let's not forget Christian Gonzalez still, get him back. That shores up some of the secondary. But I thought, that was probably Drake May's best game as a pro. It was good to see him both run and throw. That wheel route to Ramondre Stevenson up the sideline, climbed up the pocket, delivered it. That was beautiful. So
that was pretty stuff.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how things can flip in 1 week. You go from feeling really bad about like, oh, here we go again, to hey, we won in Miami. We never win in Miami. Hey, we scored more than 30 points. We never score more than 30 points. So no, I'm still feeling. I feel as good as I felt about the Patriots in a long time. But as I tell my buddy Zach on. Not Zach Keen, but on the other podcast, another plug for that, the Editor's Note Comics podcast. My buddy Zach Bowen, who does that podcast, and I'm on that with him. I recording that tomorrow. I'm going to tell him I cheated on him tonight, so I feel like I got to give a plug to that. He's like, "Hey, how's it feel? How's your 2-win football team doing?" I'm like, "I got 6. I got to see 6 championships from my favorite team, so I have nothing to be upset about."
What's his team?
He doesn't really have one.
He's just a hater.
His spouse is a Green Bay Packers fan, so he's tangentially tied to the Packers. So he's got that.
Oh, you're going to hear it a lot now.
He is a huge Celtics fan, and so gonna be a tough year for the C's. Still, they still could do some impressive stuff. A chance for Jaylen Brown to step up and be that true number one that he wants to demand that max contract money for. So, it's an opportunity for him. But I can't wait to watch him eat some humble pie throughout the course of the season. So,
all right, what's the name of the other podcast again?
Editor's Note Comics Podcast. You can find that on your favorite podcasting platforms. If you like nerd culture, pop culture stuff, we're the podcast for you. Be
perfect.
Things. Last week was Hansel and Gretel version of Hansel and Gretel by Stephen King, illustrated by Maurice Sendak. So that's what we did last week.
Oh.
This week, we're wrapping up Star Trek Strange New Worlds, new episode of Peacemaker, and a comic book I haven't read yet because I don't really read comic books until I started doing this podcast with them. So that's the premise of it.
I have worked on 2 comic books, and I have read 0 comic books.
Yeah, like the whole premise was like I had never read a comic book, and his job was like the goal of the podcast. He used to own a small local comic book store in Hollowell. Was like it was a marketing thing. Like I'm gonna like show my knowledge, which he has tremendous comic book knowledge. If you enjoy pop culture, comics, TV, movies, all that, it's a fun. I'm not just saying because I'm on it. It's an awesome podcast. But one of the first comics he gave me to read was The Watchmen. I was like, what the hell is going on here? Like I'm
familiar with The Watchmen. I haven't read it, but I'm familiar with it.
It's a dense book, but no, it's a lot of fun. So give that a listen too. If I didn't bore you to tears tonight, so.
I was not bored to tears. As always, Jarod, this is great. There's a decent chance I will see you on a football sideline.
Yes.
Sometime this year. And if not, I will see you on a basketball sideline.
Absolutely. Not hard to find either of us. So
No, it's not. No, it's not. Awesome. All right. Thanks so much for doing this.
Hey, thanks, Lucas.
Okay. Thanks again to Jarod Richmond for joining me. Always fun to talk to him. He does a fantastic job on WHOU with Rob Kennedy. They're going to have state games. They're going to have games all year long on WHOU. If you haven't subscribed to WHOU yet, I'm not sure how you ended up listening to this podcast. So yeah, get on that. What are you waiting for? Anyway, okay, so we're going to try a new feature. This is mostly for me. You'll be fine. We're calling it Movie Corner, and what it's going to do is, let me switch locations here. Okay. Each week for now, until I think of a different feature format, we give you two movies. We're going to talk about 2 movies, a new movie and an old movie, because if you're only watching new movies, you have no idea what's going on. You got to watch the old movies first because they're great. That's what the foundation. So we're going to start though with the new movie. The new movie, this is Spinal Tap 2, whatever. Big Spinal Tap fan. Love the Spinal Tap movie. Love all of the Christopher Guest mockumentaries, Best in Show, A Mighty Wind, Waiting for Guffman, For Your Consideration. They're great. Love them. This movie doesn't really need to exist, but it's fun. Like, there's nothing. I chuckled a few times. There was a couple like, oh, that's pretty good. Paul McCartney shows up. Elton John shows up. There's some people who think maybe they shouldn't be there. There's some interesting criticism of that out there, that in the original Spinal Tap, they were such outsiders, and it changes a lot by having them be revered, this revered rock band in the new one. But who cares? It's an excuse to see these guys again, it's just to see them hang. It's a good hang movie. Michael McKean does some fun stuff you get a sense that he regrets things and doesn't really want to say he regrets things. And, I just enjoyed hanging out with these characters for 90 minutes. And, it was fun. I mean, I don't know if it's worth seeing it in the theater, although there was a guy sitting behind me who I don't think had seen the original, because when they were talking about the drummer who died choking on someone else's vomit, he got really audibly grossed out, like he had never heard that before. And I'm not sure how you get to Spinal Tap 2 without having seen Spinal Tap 1. It seems like that's a really hard place to start, but it takes all kinds. It is also nice to be the youngest person in a movie theater by a good 30 years. So there was that. So I would probably wait that's going to come on streaming pretty soon, I would imagine. So I would probably wait for that. So the old movie I wanted to tell you about, I watch a lot of movies. This is on At least it was a couple days ago on Turner Classic Movies on demand. If you have YouTube TV, you can get to Turner Classic Movies on demand, and there's some fun stuff there. So it's called A Big Hand for the Little Lady, directed by Fielder Cooks from 1966. So the premise is it's a poker movie. So before you get turned off by the little lady thing, it's a poker movie. I love a poker movie. Robert Redford just died today as of this recording, and if you have not seen The Sting, you need to see The Sting right away. But you've probably heard of The Sting, so I want to tell you about this movie. I saw Big Hand for Little Lady. For the little lady, I just put it on randomly. So Henry Fonda and Joanne Woodward. Joanne Woodward was Paul Newman's wife, who she won an Oscar well before he did. Did he win a competitive Oscar? I don't remember if he won a competitive Oscar or not, but there's a fun picture that I'm not going to throw up here because of copyright reasons, but of her making him hold a fake Oscar that says no Oscar. So Henry Fonda and Joanne Woodward are married. They're in the West, and in this town in the West, every year the 5 richest people in Texas get together and they have a big poker game, and it's a big event, and no one can watch the poker game, which is very strange. It's like they're in this back room of the saloon, and there's all these people in the saloon who are desperate to find out who's winning this poker game, and no one will tell them, not even the guy running back and forth. And he'll come out and he'll have to get more chips, and they're like, oh, who's losing? Blah, 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 blah. So it's fun. It's a little silly, those scenes. But anyway, Henry Fonda and Joanne Woodward and their kid show up, and they're traveling, and Henry Fonda is like, he hears about this game. He's like, I can't play in the game because I promised my wife I would stop with the gambling. And oh my gosh. And Henry Fonda is very good in this. And she goes to do something, and then he manages to talk them into letting him watch the game, and nobody else is allowed to watch the game. And so then he manages to get in the game, and it's going horribly wrong for him, and he's losing all of their money. And then she shows up, and she's really upset, as you might imagine. And then you think you know where it's going to go, and then it does not go there. It's the third act is awesome, like really awesome. I was surprised because I was sort of watching this as I was trying to fix the heel points, and I sort of thought I knew where the film was going to go, and it took a turn on me, and that doesn't happen a ton. I was like, oh, okay, all right, this is interesting. And then it kept going, and really, it's a lot better than I expected. Very much worth your time. A Big Hand for the Little Lady. And that is your movie corner. And that's the show. Let me pull up the thing that I have to read. That's the wrong one. That's also the wrong one. This is professionalism. Oh, there it is. I scrolled off it. This has been a production of MaineBasketballRankings.com, your source for the most comprehensive coverage of Maine high school basketball from Ashland to York and everywhere in between. This podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts and a bunch of places you don't. If you enjoy this, please leave a nice review because it really does help out with algorithms and helps people find the show. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. Thanks for listening.